Hi, everyone. Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us. My name is Chantel Smith. I'm the Assistant Director of Recruitment and Inclusive Communities within the Honors College at UMD. We want to just say congratulations again on your acceptance to UMD and in the invite to the Honors College. We're so excited for you during this time. So this week, we will be offering an opportunity for you all to hear from the staff and students who represent our 8 unique programs. We are hoping that this helps you while you're determining which the programs you're most interested in, so that you can complete your program preferencing form by February 19th. In tonight's session, we'll be focusing on our Gemstone, and later on, we'll be focusing on our Honors Global Communities programs. So while we encourage you to send in your questions through the Q&A feature, we ask that you just hold off on that until the end, since there's a chance your questions may be addressed during the presentation. And then once the presentation is over, we'll open it up for Q&A so that you guys can chat with the students and staff. So to kick things off, I'll go ahead and pass the mic over so you can hear more about Gemstone.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you, Chantel, for the great introduction. I'm going to quickly share my screen and then we'll go ahead and get started. Okay. Can I get a thumbs up if you all can see that? Cool. Okay. So, like she said, we are the Gemstone Honors Program, and I'm so excited to be talking to you all today about just kind of who we are, our different offerings that we have, and then you all hear from some of our students as well that happen to be honors ambassadors too. So I'm very excited to share some information with you. So today I will be your host. So my name is Brianna Lucas. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the program manager for student engagement for the Gemstone Honors Program. So what that means is it's basically just a fancy way of saying I do all different things related to student engagement. So leadership initiatives, or professional development, anything that the students may need, that's kind of who I am for them. So starting with just kind of what is Gemstone. So we are a 4-year interdisciplinary team kind of research program. So if you meet anyone in Gemstone, we like to brag about the fact that we are the only 4-year team or 4-year program that's under the Honors College. So we get really excited to share some cool things that we do. And what I mean by kind of team research is basically each team that is formed under Gemstone, there's 8 to 12 students that will get to conduct research with someone on campus that we call a faculty mentor over their course of their 3 other years into the program. So thankfully, your first year, if you were to join us, you would learn more about just kind of research in general and just kind of what Gemstone is and learning more about campus and getting a little acclimated to the concept of doing a research project. And then within your next 3 years, that's when you get to do your research with your team on a more specific topic. And we can talk more about that a little bit later. And it's a sequential curriculum with co-curricular leadership opportunities. So that's what I'll talk about in a little bit, with just a couple different other things that you can get involved in besides just the research piece. And here are some photos of some of our lovely Gemstone students. And yeah. So a lot of questions we usually get are, what are some current Gemstone team research topics and kind of what are some of these students focusing on? Obviously, there's been a ton of different other topics, but here are a couple that we wanted to just highlight for you all. So as you can see, they range from a bunch of different things. And so, like I said, we're kind of multidisciplinary. We try to not only do STEM related things, we try to let students kind of attached to whatever they are feeling they want to research, which is exciting. And so I always get super excited to look at the different topics that come in. Even though I am fairly new to the office, I've done my, a deep dive into looking at what teams have done in the past. And it's just so amazing to see what people come up with. So if any of these things are interesting to you, we can always connect you with students if you want to ask more questions about how they're doing in their research process. But it's pretty cool to see what everyone can come up with. So I'll let you all read those for a second. Okay. And like I said, these are only a few. We obviously have a lot of teams. So there's a bunch of different other topics that are happening at the same time. So just a little bit of a curriculum overview. So within your first year, like it says, you'll kind of learn more about just like your research topic and kind of learning what is it like to select a research topic and how can you really do well with in your team and kind of who you are, what is your role that could be on your team. Then in your second year, you get to do more of the research design and learning about like different methods, and then you'll get to do your thesis proposal, which I'm sure some of my students later on this call could talk about what that was like. And then you also get to do data collection in your third year, which is pretty exciting. And depending on obviously your topic, that could look a lot different for your team. So it just kind of depends on what route you take for that. And then in your fourth year, you get to complete the data collection, and then you defend and publish your final thesis. So that's something that I love about Gemstone, is that you get the experience of doing a couple different presentations, which is helpful as an undergrad student, because not everyone can graduate and say that they've been able to kind of defend a thesis or actually work on that research team and then have to present it to, different stakeholders. So that's something that's pretty unique about our program. In total, there's 18 credits. The good thing is that some of them overlap with your general education requirements too, which is really nice. And then speaking of just kind of leadership and student engagement in general, we have something called the Gemstone Leadership Council. And so that's who I get to work really closely with, since I do student engagement, which is really exciting. So we have a couple different committees. So for example, we have Gems Camp and First Year Experience. So hey, maybe we'll talk about this a little bit later because she's been a part of that. But basically we have it says on there, Gems Camp. And so it's a camp that you can come to when you're accepted into the program, and it's basically right before classes start. And so it's a nice way to get to know your other cohort members that are coming into the program with you. And it's just fun to get away from campus for a second before you kind of do a deep dive into classes and all the things that you have going on campus. And the good thing is that it doesn't really just stop there. So after you come back from camp and you start classes, we still have that first year experience piece, which is exciting because that'll be different events that you can go to, and you can kind of get connected with, which brings me to my next thing, is our Connect Mentor program. And so like it says, peer mentor, because we see the value in having, those peer-to-peer relationships. And so it almost kind of bleeds into each other when it comes from Gems Camp into all the Connect things that we have available for you. We also have the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. So this committee, they do a bunch of different things. So for example, in the spring, they do like a pride picnic. There's also something called Community Conversations, where we talk about kind of everyone's experiences in the program and how can we continuously improve. So there's a lot of different opportunities with that. We also have a GEMS 100 steering committee and teaching assistants, and team formation steering committee and teaching assistants. So some of the classes that you will take if you were to join our program, we have students that are in the program that are upperclassmen that become your TAs. So you get to learn, again, that peer-to-peer relationship, which is really nice. And so what we mean by steering committees is that basically you can help form the curriculum, and then you can help make sure, the classes are running really smoothly. And then lastly, the Gemstone Alumni Mentor and Partner Program. So this we call AMP. It is very exciting for us because we really value that relationship with our alumni that have been in our program. And we're continuously trying to strengthen those relationships. And so we actually have a good amount of alumni that are still in the DMV area. So then we get to try to talk to them as much as we can and invite them to our events. And then basically there's a couple different opportunities to get your resume reviewed, cover letter reviewed by them, or just really having discussions about, okay, you were in Gemstone at one point, what have you done with your experience post-grad? So as you can see, lots of different options. There's more probably that we might be forgetting, but at least these are some of the most important ones that we wanted to highlight for you all. And then speaking of alumni, kind of where are they at now? So a lot of our alumni end up going off into professional school, and there's more information about this on our website as well that I can link after this. But a lot of them go to graduate school, medical school, law school, vet school, etc. So a lot of our students, find this time in our program essential to them kind of continuing on. And so we help a lot with making sure that you feel set up for success to go into that next, professional school that you may do. We also have a lot of people that went straight into the workforce. So some examples are people at like Google and Apple and Amazon, and just lots of different options there. But also on our website, you can see kind of what our alumni are doing. And we try to update that as much as we can because it's always interesting to see where everyone ends up. And that is all I have for you. So now I believe we're opening up to Q&A.
We can have the ambassadors go ahead and introduce themselves while we get some questions in.
And we don't bite, but I'm Owen Mank. I am a junior electrical engineer and I'm part of the research team Scoot. And I guess to give a brief summary of what we do, we're researching means to develop a assistive knee scooter that can intelligently provide powered assistance to users their to make their independence and ability to navigate rougher terrain a lot easier.
My name is Annette. I'm a junior neuroscience major and Spanish minor. I'm on Team Fungi. We are using fungal extracts to try and inhibit bacterial biofilm growth that can form on medically implanted devices such as pacemakers and catheters.
My name is Erin. I'm a sophomore computer science and math major, and I'm on Team Nemo, which is focusing on addressing the lionfish invasion in the Northern Atlantic as it approaches the Chesapeake Bay.
My name's Amber. I'm a junior microbiology major with a minor in general business, and I'm on Team Superbug, where our aim is to mitigate resistant bacterial infections, and we're specifically focusing on resensitizing nalidixic acid resistant E. coli using CRISPR-Cas9 technology.
Hello, my name is Sohei. I'm a junior public health science major on Team Black Lives Matter, and my research team is investigating factors that influence maternal mortality rates in Prince George's County, Maryland.
Awesome. I think that's everyone that needs to introduce themselves. But as you all can see, so many different cool topics. And I think that's just really always interesting. Even if I don't know sometimes the exact thing that they're talking about, it's cool to hear kind of what they're working towards. So I really appreciate you all sending all these questions in the chat. So I'm going to start with the one that says, how many students are in the program? So you know, we're one of the biggest programs under honors. And so what's exciting is we get to bring in around 100 students per cohort. Sometimes it's a little bit more than that, depending on how many people want to join our program and just kind of the selection process in general. But from what I've seen since I've joined the staff, it's been about 100 students per cohort, which is exciting. The next one I see is, why did you join GEMS as opposed to other programs? So I will let any of our students answer that question.
I initially joined Gemstone because I was really interested in looking into research, particularly because I'm hoping to eventually go into grad school and do renewable energy research. But particularly even though I have a heavy load with my classes, I've decided to stay in Gemstone because the program and as members, I think all of the ambassadors here are members of the Leadership Council, as far as I know. We have a really good community building environment, and there's generally been good relationships among all of our students, particularly among like upperclassmen and underclassmen, and like the ability to reach out to other students to get questions. And that's something I just heavily enjoyed in Gemstone. And that's like one of the biggest reasons I've continued to stay in Gemstone. And one of the reasons I suggested is, particularly if you plan to go in research, it's a really good opportunity to get that experience. And if you're hoping to have a good community building experience in college, Gemstone's like a good way to supplement that.
Does anyone else want to add to that?
I could go. So I remember like 3 years ago, I was in your spot and I was going to all the little rooms and like asking questions and stuff. And then we got to Gemstone, and the first thing was like, Gemstone is a 4-year research honors program, and that's like the only thing I wrote. And I was like, I'm going to Gemstone. In high school, I was in the AP Capstone program, which is like 2 years of research. So I had some research background, but I really wanted to get to explore that more in college. And UMD is a really great research school. But the thing that drew me to Gemstone was the opportunity to not make your own research project, but like all the projects, like all the teams everyone's on here were proposed by other students or even by themselves. So it's like you really get the opportunity to make a research project your own and like basically carry out PhD level research from your freshman year of college up until you graduate. And then of course the community, you get to be involved with like the Gemstone Leadership Council, you could plan Gems Camp, you could TA for all the Gemstone classes. Those are opportunities that I'm really glad Gemstone gave me, and that's why I continue to stay here.
And one thing I'd like to add, which particularly when I was going to Gemstone wasn't initially clear, is with the topic of research, research in itself is kind of broad, where like we have a lot of engineering students where while it's research, our research is going into design. So particularly if you're hoping to do a project where you worked on design, such as our own team, that can in itself be research and researching like what qualities would make this design better, how would this design impact a group that you're hoping to help. So that's one thing, particularly for those who want to do like design and also want to do research. Gemstone's a good opportunity to get like a mix of both if you plan to go that route.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that. Okay. Our next question that we have is, are research groups randomly assigned, or do you get to find professors/peers who have similar research interests? So Owen typed this in the chat, but I want to make sure that everyone can see this. So your spring semester of your freshman year, you all have a chance to present research topics, and there's a student voting process where you choose your favorite topics to be a member of. That's a perfect way to describe that. I appreciate that, Owen. I would be curious if any of the students want to describe specifically like Annette or Amber or Sohei, if you want to talk about how you were matched with your like peer mentor, if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, I can talk about that. So the peer mentor process, when you are forming your teams, the program will ask you to submit a form, and it's basically just a preferencing form. So you can do a little bit of your own research and look around campus for faculty mentors that might fit your project idea. And then once you find someone that does, you can submit that to the preferencing form, and the program itself will reach out to the mentor and see if they would be a good fit for your team.
Perfect. Thank you so much. The next question is dorming required? So I'm going to turn this over to Jenny, actually.
Hi, so housing in Gemstone is not required for students. Some of our programs do require the students to live in the program housing, but Gemstone is not one of those programs. It is strongly encouraged, however, if students want to live on campus, there is a spot for them in the Gemstone Residence Hall, which is Ellicott. And if the students want to talk about Ellicott, maybe now would be a good time for that.
So I lived in Ellicott Hall my freshman year. One thing you will know is that it doesn't have AC in the dorms, but there are ACs in the lounge, and your classes are in the basement. So like I had a 9 a.m. for Gems 100, so it was very nice to just go downstairs and have class and then go back upstairs to my room. You hang out with your friends in the lounge, you'll go to like other dorms. So the lack of AC does not really deter from that. It's really nice because everyone on your floor is also in Gemstone. So like you go to classes together, you come back together, you end up like my freshman year roommate is on my team now. So like we were roommates together freshman year and now we're team members together. So it's really nice in that regards. And then you can choose to live in Ellicott like your sophomore year, or you can go somewhere else. And there's like a bunch of dorms on campus. So you always have the opportunity to live in somewhere else.
And to add, because I was particularly for anyone who's interested in joining the Flexus and Vertus engineering program, which does have required housing in Easton. As a member of that program, I didn't have the opportunity to be in Ellicott my freshman year, but I still spent a very large portion of my time in Ellicott because I ended up having a lot of like friends I've met through the different student events. So even then, I think we have access to at least the classrooms, and you can ask friends to go up to rooms. But I can add like it was a very good experience on meeting peers and meeting people in my similar classes by going to the different lounges and just meeting with people.
Yeah, thank you so much. Does anyone else have anything to add to their Ellicott experience? I think from us. Oh, go ahead, Amber.
Sorry. Yeah, I would just like to add, like, if you perhaps are in the position where maybe you're nervous about meeting new people or making new friends, because it's like a big university, and going to college alone is pretty daunting. I think, like, I lived in Ellicott my freshman year as well. So a part of being in Ellicott, and knowing that the GEMS program is there and a lot of other GEMS students live there, it was a really easy way to make friends and get more acclimated into not only the program, but the university itself. And similar opinion about GEMS Camp as well, because I also attended GEMS Camp and that was a really good way to make friends too. So.
Yeah, thank you. And I will say from the staff perspective too, what I love is that the students that live here in the building, I can quickly message them and, you know, say, hey, I know we have an advising meeting in a couple minutes. Are you coming down, or do you want to, you know, do it on Zoom? And then a lot of people opt into just coming downstairs, and it's really accessible. And I think what I love too is that even when we're leaving for the day, our students still have access to this area so that they can meet in the different conference rooms, and they can kind of do whatever they need to do for their studying, which is nice. So I think it is very, very helpful. Let's see. The next question I'm seeing is, for students who come in with a significant number of credits and may have an opportunity to graduate early, how will this impact participation in the Gemstone Honors Program? So I will turn that over to Annette.
So it is completely possible to graduate early within the Gemstone Honors Program. It's just a matter of kind of working things out with your team. If you're graduating a semester early, that means you might miss the presenting the thesis portion of your project, and that's completely fine. You just need to make sure you can kind of attend the meetings with your team, whether they're in person or online. And yeah, you just need to make sure you're available for whatever questions they may have, you know, make sure you're participating and still a full member of the team while not being a student, if that makes sense. So it is completely possible to graduate early. You just have to communicate with your team about it.
Yeah, thank you for that. And we do have a few people that, for example, graduated this past December, and they're still continuing, you know, and finishing out their projects for this semester as well. So it definitely is possible. So thank you. The next, oh, good.
I would like to quickly answer a question about how studying abroad works when the program is 4 years long. It's preferred that I believe the spring of your sophomore year and anytime your junior year, if you're doing it during the semester, we have a contract you have with the student studying abroad and your team about what work you can do, and generally we'll have, like my team did, because we had 3 out of our 8 team members study abroad at the same time. We'll have Zoom meetings and have digital ways to communicate with each other and establish like what work they can work on, and generally had a contract on like what tasks they needed to do and what work they should try to put to every day. And even then, there's also a lot of opportunities for spring break, summers, and winter term study abroad, which I just got back 2 weeks ago from studying in Germany for like a renewable energy program. So you don't feel limited by the program being 4 years. There's multiple opportunities where you can still study abroad as well as staying on a team and working towards your team's work. And I just wanted to add that in.
Yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate that answer. Does anyone else want to talk about if they've done study abroad? I don't know if anyone else on the call has done it.
Yeah, I also just got back this past winter. I actually saw Owen at the airport, which is funny. I did study abroad at Oxford University in the UK over the winter. So just to concur with him, winters and summers aren't restricted by the program.
Thank you. So to the question of what kind of topics do the GEMS classes cover? So I will give like a brief overview, but the good thing is that this information is actually on our website. And you can go under current students and then curriculum, but just what I would like to highlight is that we do a kind of 4 years at a glance model, so that when you go on our website, you can look at, first year fall, first year spring, second year fall, second year spring. And so some of the topics, for example, are like first year, in your first semester, you'll take what's equivalent to kind of the introductory course for University of Maryland, but it's specific to freshmen, like honor students that are in Gemstone, which is nice. And then some of the other classes are kind of, research topic exploration, team dynamics and research methodology. And then after that, once you've kind of done some of those introduction courses towards, like we talked about earlier, of kind of the research topics, forming your team and things like that, you will then move into basically taking credits for working towards your research project. So like I said, all that information is on our website, which is really useful, I feel, and it's under current students and then curriculum. Does anyone want to talk about their experience with the curriculum, or you have anything to add about the curriculum?
I can add because I've TA'd. It's like my proud Gemstone woman. I TA'd for all the classes, and now I'm TAing for team formation again. But we talk about like introduction to research, but also research ethics, and trying to get like students to think about the equity impact of their research. When you get placed in a team, you're thinking about what you want your team project to look like. So like feasibility, community engagement, stuff like that. But then also like research dynamics, like team dynamics. You're working with a team typically of like 8 to I think like 14 people, maybe less than 8, but like no more than like 14, I feel like. Because oh yeah, I had a team that had 14 people on it. So I feel like that was the max you could be. But kind of talk about what does it mean to work in a team, and like funding, like where do you get funding and how do you deal with conflict and stuff like that. So really a lot of stuff, but also it's really it's things that you'll use even if you weren't in a Gemstone team, but like if you're thinking about getting a job, you're gonna have coworkers and how do you interact with them and stuff like that. So it's very applicable things that you would use for like the rest of your life.
Thank you for that. The next question I see is there enough time to take on a minor while in Gemstone? Also, are you allowed to join a research group outside of Gemstone? Erin, I see you typed your answer. If you don't mind also sharing that out loud so that we can have that recording answer as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said in the chat, there's absolutely enough time and enough credit to take either a minor or a second major outside of Gemstone. A lot of students in Gemstone are very interested in multiple topics, which is why they're participating in an interdisciplinary research program. So I'd say that probably most Gemstone students have other majors or other minors in addition to Gemstone. And also, it's absolutely possible to participate in other research programs. I, for example, am participating in another research group this semester. And I feel like Gemstone, instead of hindering your experience with other research groups, often gives students the connections that they need or the experience that they need to make progress in other research groups. It's much easier to email a professor and say, hey, I've already done research, I have experience with Gemstone, could I join your research group because I'm interested? Than just saying, hey, I've done nothing, could I join your research group? Gemstone is well respected and professors are more likely to expect more from a student doing research with them if they've been in Gemstone. So it's often easier to make connections with other groups if you're already in the Gemstone program.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And anyone else on the call want to talk about their experience with a minor? Because I think we have 1 or 2 people on here that have a minor.
Yeah, so I'm a public health science major, but I have a French studies minor, and me being in Gemstone did not impact that in any way. Like you do a little bit of like maneuvering with your 4-year plan, but like I love working with my 4-year plan. My 4-year plan is like my favorite spreadsheet to work on. So you just have to do like more thinking about what that looks like for your 4 years, or if you're 3 years graduating early, whatever. But definitely working with your advisors. You already know the Gemstone classes you're going to be taking. So it's just a matter of putting everything else in its place. But yeah, it's definitely possible. And a lot of people do it.
And yeah, just to add really quick, I actually added my minor this past year, and I still have plenty of time to like take other classes and do Gemstone and my major, etc. And I'm a junior, so I'd be finishing my minor between my junior and my senior year. So just to give you like an idea, like the minors, I think it's only like they require like 15 credits, if I'm correct. Yeah, so you have plenty of time to do a minor or a major. Major's a little different, but
Yeah, thank you so much for adding in that, because I think it's helpful to hear from people that are currently pursuing the minors as well. So I appreciate you all sharing your insight. Let's see. The next question was, are all the research projects team-based only, or are there opportunities to do a project on your own? So like Owen had said in the chat, for Gemstone, we definitely do everything as a team, but like you've already kind of heard from some of the students, you can still do, you know, alternative research opportunities on your own, but we just really value working in a team. And I think there's a lot that you can learn from working on a team while doing a research project. So as it stands, yes, we definitely do everything as a team. Okay. Next question I'm seeing, how are your research projects limited in scope? Do you have a funding allowance, or do students have to come up with it on their own? What facilities are you allowed to use? Do I have anyone that wants to chime in on the funding piece?
I can talk about funding a little bit. Most of our funding does come from an outside source. A lot of teams use something called UMD, which is kind of like a GoFundMe, but for groups on campus. Other than that, Gemstone has a little bit of funding for teams, but not quite enough that teams can utilize that for all of their research. But yes, so most teams use on UMD. You can also apply for grants. There's something called Do Good on campus, and our team has also received money from that. It's just a really short application. I think that's all of the funding that I can think of. I don't know if anyone else has something else, but
To add on to that, I want to say there are a few Gemstone specific grants and stuff that we get funding from. So like the library award, which my team is currently applying for, are a Gemstone specific award. The money is going to go to a Gemstone team no matter what, whether or not we win it. And like Annette mentioned, the Do Good Showcase is where all the junior year Gemstone teams present, and the winners will also receive funding. So Gemstone as a program is funded, and that funding goes to teams. It's just not like each team gets this amount of money. You do have to apply for the funding that you get as well.
Thank you. Oh, and you can go ahead.
And to add, like part of the Do Good, which our team ended up being one of the winners for, that's presenting generally the impact. Yeah. Where that's presenting one of the impacts and good that your project can do, and how ways you're working towards benefiting, either just benefiting society in a whole, whether it's through sustainability, through equity, affordability, I think were some of the categories we judge off of.
Yep, and that's also, I'm glad you all mentioned like Do Good. So that is an institute that's on campus, but what we like to do is called the Do Good Showcase. And so that's another opportunity, like I kind of touched on before, where you can get some practice, you know, presenting in front of large groups of people. And so that was actually one of the first events that I went to when I joined this program. And it was so amazing just to see the different students kind of work together on their teams and kind of have that practice, like I said. But yes, as you all can see, we do have a couple different funding opportunities. And I think we have some information on your website about that as well, if you have any other questions that you would like answered from that area. This next question is, this is specifically for our students, are there any things that you would improve if you were the director of the program, or if you were kind of on staff in the program? So Owen, you can read your responses if you want, because I don't think everyone can see that.
One of my responses was, in the program, one of the things I've heavily enjoyed is, as I mentioned earlier, the community building and just the general interactions we have among all of our students, and between just everyone in my own cohort and just the different cohorts interacting through our student leadership. And if I were a program director, one thing I might change would be trying to have more programs for direct, like large cohort or large program wide meetings between just all of our cohorts, between like freshmen, sophomores, juniors, seniors, just to have more opportunities to ask questions of each other and connect and help each other with our teams and our research.
Yeah, thank you.
I will also add a little bit to that. The program is always changing. I mean, things are different every single year. The curriculum for all the classes changes to adapt to what students need. We also have, as Brianna mentioned earlier, we have community conversations every semester, and that's where we get a lot of feedback on what the students think need to be improved. So again, based on that, we really adapt and we grow every single semester.
Yeah. Does anyone else want to add anything to that?
It is really difficult to think of something to change in Gemstone because I feel like the program as a whole is very well organized. One thing that was not frustrating, but sort of annoying to me as a freshman and sophomore was that the classes are often in the evening to fit with everyone's schedules. So we'll have a 5 p.m. class or a 4:30 p.m. class, which can be tiring, but overall it's for the best fit with everyone's schedule so that no students have to skip the Gemstone class or conflict with any of their other major required classes.
Yeah, I appreciate that insight because, yeah, like she said, I mean, there's so many students that are needing to take the same classes in the same semester. And so, yeah, it is definitely very difficult to try to figure out a time that works for everyone. And like Annette said, with the community convos, I absolutely love that we do that every single semester so that, because we understand that a fall semester could present different problems than a spring semester, right? And so as staff, we commit to coming to those community conversations so that we can hear directly from the students. And so just to give you all an example of some feedback that we were given last semester that we're working on this semester is that some of the students were wanting to have more touch points that were informal with our staff. And so not just, in class or talking about research related issues. So we decided to do some coffee and chat sessions that we're going to be doing actually starting, I think it's next week. So we're very excited about that. And we're hoping to do a couple of those a semester. And then we're also going to be doing some study day sessions where we just kind of have a room in the library and someone on staff will be sitting there if anyone has questions about things or just wants to kind of get to know us a little bit more while also having that study space, because we sometimes do study days on like reading day, which is, for those who don't know what that is basically it's a day that the university gives students to kind of prepare themselves for finals. And so everyone really liked those. And so we decided to kind of continue those throughout the semester. And a couple other things we kind of were given some feedback on were our commuter students, and they felt like they didn't really have a space for them. And so we're actually in the middle of creating a space for them in Ellicott right now so that they can kind of come and go and drop their stuff off if they need to, since they don't necessarily have an apartment or a dorm room on campus where they can, come and go. So those are just a few examples of things that we've been given feedback on that they want to improve within our program, and we've been able to make it happen. The next one is, how would you describe the pressure and workload in GEMS compared to other LLPs? So with this question, I think is somewhat tough to answer just because our students don't necessarily get to see what it's like to be a student in the other LLPs, like actually taking classes and interacting with the people in those programs. But I don't know if anyone has anything they want to add to that question. Or you can speak. Okay.
Oh, I would say like Gemstone, you're taking like your classes, but you're also doing independent research outside of that. So as with all things, scheduling, knowing your team, and it generally depends on your team's research, because for the team I teed for, they went to a lab, but like my team's research isn't lab based, so I don't go to a lab, so I don't need to factor that into my schedule. But you have your team meetings, but you also have things you're doing outside of your team meetings. So not like you have a team, it's a team project. So everyone like divides tasks up by your team. Like you're not only doing your research yourself, but it's just understanding that you will commit, like maybe that's going to be like 5 hours or 4 hours or 3 hours additionally per week to work on your team research, because at the end of the day, that is something that you committed to by being a member of the Gemstone Honors Program and being on your team, and you don't kind of want to let your other team members down to pick up your slack, but also communicating and stuff like that. So it genuinely depends. I always recommend being organized just generally because like you're taking classes as well. So just treat it like a different class that you have more homework for.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just to,
okay.
Sorry. Just to add something really quick to that, I think you get out of it what you put in. So while I think the biggest difference between Gemstone and everything else, like previously mentioned, is it is 4 years long versus 2 years. So other LLPs, they'll be done after their sophomore year, and then they won't be in a program anymore for their junior and senior year. But I think the benefit of Gemstone behind that is just the detail and just how intricately we get into research, and the 4 years allows us to do that because it's really hard to complete research within 2 years. So again, like you really get out of it what you put in. So that also kind of equates in terms of like the time, the amount of work that you put into it.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I really appreciate your insight. Another question I see is, how is the work usually broken up between the around 8 people on the different teams? And Owen, if you could just read the response that you typed.
I know for at least my team, we primarily break ourselves into groups of our overall skills. And then we have a lot of interdisciplinary like mixing within our own teams to try to tackle any problems we face with at multiple angles, and so we can help each other throughout different questions. So for example, one of my friends on my team, Mario, he's a civil engineer, but he's working directly with me on programming. And if he ever has like questions on how to use certain programs or follow certain languages, I've been helping him with any questions he has. But we generally try to break up our work into groups, or break our team into groups to hit different parts of the work to maximize how much work we can get done, and intentionally try to mix up our groups so we can get feedback and information from each other instead of just going at one problem all on our own.
I will also add, as a lab-based research team, we have some people on the team go into lab, and then if other people are not able to go into lab, either if they don't have an interest in it or if they don't have space in their schedule, we have them do data analysis. So there's always so many different aspects to every single research team, and usually teams break into subgroups based on what the research entails.
Yeah, just to add a little more context to what Annette said. So for example, our team is also a lab-based research team, and we're broken up into 3 subgroups. So we have a microbiology subgroup, we have a molecular biology subgroup, and we have a bioinformatics subgroup. So we've broken that up based on people's interests as well. So for example, people in the bioinformatics, we have someone who's in a computer science major, and then someone who's a microbiome major. So really, I think that helps also, like Annette said, in terms of time management, like what you're able to do with respect to what other responsibilities you may have on campus, and also what you're interested in.
Great, thank you for that. That was a good question. The next question I see is, what are the common reasons students given or have given if or when they drop out of Gemstone? That's a tricky question, just because, like you said, if they are to give us the reason, so sometimes students don't necessarily give us, and they're not required to give us a reason. Some of the reasons that I have seen are solely just based off of people are interested in different things. Maryland is such a large campus. There's a lot of other opportunities that are on campus, and we can't necessarily keep everyone, even if we really want to. So some students, they get maybe a year or 2 in and they decide, hey, there's another opportunity on campus that I would rather pursue. And we are open and, happy for them if they do decide to do that. That is just one of the biggest reasons I've seen. But other than that, like I said, some students don't really share with us necessarily why they would like to leave the program, and that's totally up to them. So I see another question. Do people do research on computer science at Gemstone? That's a good question. So as you can see from some of the topics that were in the presentation, and also from what the students have discussed that they're doing on their teams, there's a lot of different things that have been brought up with different like topics such as like computer science or other related things. So something cool about our website, and I keep referring back to our website because we do a pretty good job of maintaining it, and a lot of your questions are on here, which is really exciting. So if you go to our website and then you go to teams, you can look at basically every single topic that our teams have done, and then that way you can filter it through different topics that you're interested in. You could also filter it through the different classes. So like class of 2024, class of 2025, and so on. And then you can also see publications too, which is exciting. So I don't know the exact topics off the top of my head that are related to computer science that we've done, but I do know that there are a bunch on our website that you can kind of look through. That's all the questions I see right now. Does anyone have any other questions that we have not been able to answer?
I think there's one in the chat.
Has any student in Gemstone published a paper during their 4 years? Does anyone want to answer this question?
I'm actually not completely sure if people have published their paper. Obviously, that is the goal of many teams, is to publish a paper at the end of the 4 years. I feel like I have heard of a couple teams doing so. But again, I'm not completely sure. Like Brianna said, you can check out the website and look at teams there. And if they have published a paper, it'll be on.
I know one of my friends has mentioned that there are some projects that have been published by Gemstone. One is for carbon sequestering, and they said it's over 1,000 times.
And download over 1,000 times.
And that's an example of published research that's been used by the Gemstone program, or from the Gemstone program that's been used.
Yeah, thank you for that. I saw another one that just popped in. So how are the job prospects of Gemstone graduates? So this is a great question. Like we've talked about before, our alumni have been able to really connect in so many different areas of just professional life in general. I wouldn't necessarily say that people are coming to campus wanting to directly hire Gemstone people. However, Gemstone alumni have come back and told us that because of their experience being on a research team, doing presentations, learning more about just kind of how to conduct research in general, that has really helped them in their careers, specifically like, you know, Apple, Google, places like that. But again, referring back to our website too, you can see a bunch of different areas that our alumni have gone to. And in my opinion, I feel like we've had some people do some really cool things and they've been able to really soar. So, okay. Any other questions for us? These are some really good questions. I appreciate it. So if you all could type those questions in the Q&A section, that would be really helpful so that we can answer them live.
So I guess right now, to add to the question about doing private research with a professor, I've heard of a couple of my peers that have done research with professors, and it's definitely something that's, if you're a member of Gemstone, you can't just only focus on your Gemstone research. You're allowed to go to other professors and help them with research as well. And I don't know if any of my peers in this call have are partaking in their own private research as well.
Yeah, I'm partaking on my own private research project with the professor this semester. It's very doable. There's a lot to handle between the two research teams, but it's just about time, more about time management than about the focus of Gemstone, and doing two research projects at once is, yeah, very doable. And I'd say the experience with Gemstone actually prepared me for the other research project instead of like hindering my experience with it. I'd rather do both than just focus on one.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, I think those are all the questions that I'm seeing. Jenny and Chantel, I'll turn it back over to you.
I actually wanted to address one thing. There's a question about what is the percentage of students dropping out of Gemstone. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know, Brianna, if you have that data. But I did want to address sort of the underlying question of that, which is that we have a process for students to transfer programs. So if you are in Gemstone and you try it out and decide this is not for me, that happens, you know, people change interests. change degree programs, change, things, whatever, once they start to enroll at the University of Maryland. We do have a process for students who are freshmen in the Honors College. So in the spring of their freshman year, their second semester, they can apply to transfer programs within the Honors College. If approved, they would then be able to start the new program in the fall of their sophomore year. The Gemstone courses that they took the freshman year are not going to transfer over to the new program because the course requirements for each LLP are completely different. But it is a possibility, it is available to the students if that is something they want to do.
Yeah, my apologies. I actually didn't even see that question come in. I like exited out of the chat accidentally, but I unfortunately do not have that data just because I'm kind of new to the office and I don't have access to some of that. But like Jenny said, there are other options that you can partake in if you were a student that came in and, tested us out and decided it wasn't for you. That is totally okay. So thank you for sharing that, Jenny. I appreciate that.
I'd like to add on to that in my experience, one of the most common times that all the students that I've seen have decided to drop out of the Gemstone program is that spring of the freshman year. There's a lot of deciding on what the project topics are going to be. And every once in a while, once the project topics are narrowed down, so your cohort has picked, here are the 12 research projects we're going to do this year. If a student isn't interested in any of them, then they'll decide to drop out of Gemstone. And that is perfect timing to then apply to another honors program. So if you're not sure that any of the Gemstone projects were working for you, there's no harm in trying it out for a year. And if you hate the projects, then just applying to transfer to a different program that you're interested in instead.
Thank you. Yeah. I did see a question come in and then it accidentally exited, but are there any organized fun programs for Gemstone students? So do my students want to answer that?
I'd like to add as both generally a GEMS camp leader helping run GEMS camp and as a Connect mentor, we have a lot of different programs. So GEMS camp's like a really big intro. It's generally the week. It starts about the week before classes start. And it's going to be 3 days we have a camp reserve. We always reserve every year. So it's about 3 days of different interactive activities, fun free time events, which is like kayaking on the bay. Yeah, we had like a water slide or slip and slide and all that. And it's just a lot of different events to get you to all meet each other, give like some of the basics of what to expect when you're in Gemstone. You might be scared of this word, but it gets very fun at GEMS camp. We have a lot of icebreakers, which are always my favorite part of Gemstone, particularly as like a camp leader. You'll have like a group of 5 to 8 different campers. I think sometimes I had a big group, so it was like 13. I think, or was it 8? Might have been, it's like 6 to 8. It's generally a large group of students with your own upperclassmen CLs, as we call them. And it's just different events to get you all to meet each other and learn about each other. And then outside of GEMS camp, once you get back to campus through Connect mentoring, we have a bunch of different social events to get you to meet each other. Like we have ice cream socials, we have coffee breaks, and we have movie nights are some of the big things we do. And we have also one of my favorite, and I was a part of the programming board we have GEMS prom in like December, where we have like a little fun dance in the student center to all interact with each other. But that's like a couple of the big student fun events we always try to host.
Yeah, you touched on some of the fun ones. I was waiting to see if you were going to mention prom because I feel like that was such a fun time. And it's actually something that we had kind of adopted as a program because of COVID students that weren't able to have a high school prom. So then we ended up creating that here on campus for our Gemstone students. So
All right, looks like you guys did a great job of answering all the questions right on time. I see the questions coming in about the video, so they are being recorded. I'll actually be sending out a reminder email for the other info sessions that are coming up, and in that email, I'll include the links to the info sessions that have already happened. So this will be included, and the ones that happened yesterday, I'll include those as well. So don't worry about that if you need to go back and review that stuff. So thank you so much for joining us to learn more about Gemstone. I hope you guys learned a lot. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to them. I will post their information. Give me one sec.
I just put our email in the
You did?
chat.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, yes. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to them. If you have any general honors admissions questions like that, you can reach out to honorsadmissions@umd.edu. And do not forget to fill out your program preferencing form by the February 19th deadline so that we can make sure that we reserve a spot for you. And remember that it does not commit you to the university. It just, like I said, reserves a spot just in case you decide to come to UMD.